Child, let's just call it what it is. Faith Evans acting like she ain't never shared a moment with Tupac is downright diabolical at this point. Sis, we've got eyewitnesses, actual people who were there, and she's still out here pulling the who me? Act like it's 1996 again.
Oh. I ain't one to gossip, but I seen this one with my own eye. Faith Evans did screw Tupac. She got in the car with him that night when he left the club. We was all at the Century Club, baby. Anybody that knew the club that was popping back in the day was the Century Club. B, I love you, much respect, my nigga. Yeah, Faith little cuckoo was hot. She went back with Pac that night. She jumped in the car. I don't know if they ever made it to the hotel, or she just did the Jewel experience in the limo.
I open the door, all I see is black hood on, black, everything black, right? She strike like been there before. She strike and look. She said, "Hey, Drew," and just boom, and made a left. I'm like, "What the fuck is that?" She said, "Nigga, that's Faith." I said, "Faith Evans?" Because she's a light bright, I already knew. Because she was thin then, you know what I'm talking about, hella thin. He's like, "Yeah, nigga." I'm like, "All right, my nigga, I'm gone."
Yeah, they were sitting in a little, we call it a red room. It's like a little private room that's no bigger than a bathroom. They had a little couch in there. That's where niggas would go, either whoop on somebody or mainly to go and hook up with a chick. And he was sitting in that room. For some reason, I was going into that room or just checking around, doing studio checks and all. And they were in there, and he was pushing at that time, hit her head down towards his genitals. That's all I saw.
Oh, honey, buckle up, because this tea is boiling. So, allegedly, Faith Evans got confronted by Kidada Jones. Yes, that Kidada. About what really went down between her and Tupac. And guess what? Sis still denied it like she was auditioning for a role in Gaslight, the musical. But baby, I've got the receipts, the testimonies, the whispers from behind studio doors, people who swear there was something steamy going on. And really, why would they all lie? The bigger question here is, why does Faith keep pretending nothing ever happened? And while we're at it, what's the real story between her and Kidada? Now here's where it gets messy. We all know Tupac and Quincy Jones weren't exactly exchanging Christmas cards. Tupac gave a scathing interview throwing shade at Quincy's interracial relationships and biracial kids. And phew, Rashida Jones, Kidada's sister, clapped back in a fierce article dragging Pac's morals through the mud. Fast forward a few months later, Tupac runs into Kidada at a nightclub, thinks she's Rashida, and tries to apologize. Plot twist, that apology turned into romance. Yes, ma'am. The two fell head over heels and stayed together until Pac's tragic death.
I went to the studio. I realized there were a bunch of death row people there, so kind of in my mind, it all started kind of figuring it out. I started figuring it out like right there, like, okay. So, I mean, I played it off and played it cool, even though I didn't think, that was a good look just because of the fact of the Suge and Puff situation. You know what I mean? Even though I didn't really know a lot of the details about what happened, but it was clear that he took a jab at Puff at the Source Awards and stuff like that. But I was pretty oblivious to a whole lot of the things that had gone on prior to that, until probably a few years later. You know what I mean? So, I just played it cool because I'm a people person, and some of the people I had seen before or seen in passing or knew who they were, so I gave them respect, gave them a dab, Corrupt, whoever, smoking with people, drinking a Budweiser, just trying to, be cool in the moment to get the thing done, you know what I mean?
Kidada even poured her heart out in Quincy's autobiography, talking about how Tupac was the love of her life, how they lived together for 4 months, and how she was in their hotel room the night he was shot. When she arrived at the hospital, she was handed his blood-soaked clothes and told her fiancé had no pulse. As Pac lay there, she whispered, "Do you know I love you? Do you know we all love you?" And Tupac nodded, convulsed, and slipped into a final coma. Kidada's words still haunt the pages. "We should have never gone to Vegas. It wasn't supposed to happen." But let's not forget, Pac was the ultimate ladies' man and allegedly had more flings than a reality dating show, Faith Evans included. At the time, Faith was also romantically tied to Biggie, who she'd married just 8 days after meeting him at a Bad Boy Records photo shoot. Biggie even said, "That was my baby." But let's be real, they did things completely backwards. Their marriage was as dramatic as a soap opera, filled with rumors of Biggie cheating left and right, especially with Lil' Kim. Faith and Kim? Oh, they went at it like two reality TV finalists fighting for the same man. Faith once showed up at Biggie's place during the holidays and caught him and Kim naked in bed. Merry Christmas, huh?
You married Biggie when you wanted Tupac. That's hilarious. You wanted Grammys, but you settled for ghostwriting for a whore like Mary J. Blige. That's hilarious.
Of course, Biggie tried to gaslight her into thinking nothing happened, but the streets weren't buying it. And right in the middle of this chaos, Pac and Biggie were in full-blown war mode. Then came that moment. Faith was photographed with Tupac and even collaborated on a track. That image alone fanned the flames of the affair rumors. But when Faith got asked about her role in the feud, or that track with Tupac, she suddenly had amnesia, acting like she'd never even heard of it. Oh, so now Faith Evans wants us to believe that everybody knew about the beef between Tupac and Biggie, except her. The woman actually dating Biggie? Girl, make it make sense. It's giving selective memory with a sprinkle of delusion. And when folks started whispering about her alleged affair with Pac, what did Faith do? She didn't just deny it. Oh no. She straight up threw Tupac under the bus. According to Faith, when she went to Pac's hotel to collect a $25,000 payment she claimed he owed her, he allegedly told her to give him a underscore on her in return. Yup, she said it was shocking, offensive, and that by that point, the whole thing felt like a setup. In her own words, "I kind of allowed myself to be played, like she walked into something that went way off script." She insisted that kind of arrangement was never part of the deal, and that's not how she does business. Okay, Faith, but if that's true, why were you even in that hotel room? And let's be real, this whole "I didn't know there was beef" routine is tired. Too many people have confirmed she did hook up with Pac for her to keep spinning the denial wheel. And who is loudest on that mic calling her out? None other than Jaguar Wright, who's been out here confirming to anyone who'll listen that the hookup did happen.
Hilarious is pretending like you didn't know, that you weren't sure whether or not you were carrying Tupac's babies. That's hilarious. Hilarious is both of the I know and kick it with that worked at Death Row that heard Pac in the booth and took pictures of your very high yellow eggs getting by that very gorgeous dark-skinned thin man who was so much different than your obese husband who you didn't know.
Now hold up, because this next part had jaws on the floor. So, according to Jaguar Wright, Biggie's own mama might have actually preferred Lil' Kim as a daughter-in-law because Kim genuinely loved her son. Phew. Meanwhile, she basically dragged Faith Evans, saying sis settled for a life that's beneath her talent. This is a woman many consider one of the most gifted female artists ever, and here she is caught in the middle of a love triangle gone off the rails. But oh baby, it doesn't stop there. What really had people spiraling was when Jag threw out the wild claim that Faith might not even know who her baby daddy is. Allegedly, she was messing around with both Biggie and Tupac during the same window she got pregnant. And get this, Jag swears someone she knows even snapped photos of Pac and Faith getting real cozy in a studio booth at Death Row Records. If that's true, phew, it's giving Maury meets Behind the Music real quick.
Hilarious is pretending like you didn't know, that you weren't sure whether or not you were carrying Tupac's babies. That's hilarious. Hilarious is both of the I know and kick it with that worked at Death Row that heard Pac
you in the booth
and took pictures of your very high yellow eggs getting by that very gorgeous, dark-skinned, thin man who was so much different.
Child, if there's anyone who's gonna serve the tea piping hot with zero hesitation, it's Jaguar, right? You can always count on her to keep the kettle whistling. But baby, she's not the only one stirring the pot. Enter Spice One, who came in swinging with his own confirmation that yes, there was definitely something intimate brewing between Faith Evans and Tupac. So at this point, it's not even a rumor. It's practically a group project, and everyone's turning in their receipts.
Faith, that was Pac's girl. That was not his girl, but that was, you know, that was him and her and Pac had something together. They was buddies. You know, it's to say this, but we gonna keep it real. A lot of you know, I don't want to kill nobody's game or nothing, but you know, a lot of you got one that you know that don't give a who you with, and you don't give a who she with. From infinity until beyond, y'all. Period. And that was Pac and Faith.
Oh baby, it just keeps getting juicier. Another name tossing his hat into the yes, they hooked up ring? None other than Ray J. Yep, he said it loud and clear. While he was still young when he started running in circles with Tupac, he wasn't too young to peep the real action behind the scenes. According to Ray J, he saw Faith Evans sitting on Tupac's lap in a way that didn't exactly scream professional studio session, if you know what I mean. And if that wasn't enough confirmation for you, let's bring in Desiree, who flat out said Tupac 100% slept with Faith. According to her, once Pac got out of prison, he was on a straight-up revenge tour, and what was on his hit list? Sleeping with every single one of Biggie's women. Now, he apparently knew Lil' Kim wasn't gonna fold. Homegirl was loyal to Big to the core. But Faith? Pac allegedly pegged her as the weakest link. And not only did he go through with it, but Desiree claims he called her the next day just to brag about sealing the deal. Now that is messy, with a capital N.
I got a phone call the next day. He called me and he's like, I did it. And I'm like, what? What you did? He's like, just left my hotel. I was like, what? He's like, yeah, Faith. And I was like, oh. Okay, great. Got off the phone with him, started throwing up violently. You know, I guess in essence, while we sitting talking about it, it was cool. When he actually did it, you know, it kind of bothered me. But I could say this, that man ain't never lied to me one day in his life. I've never caught him in a lie. Good, bad, or indifferent. He always kept it real with me, so, you know, I don't see why he would lie ever on his dick.
Oh, honey. Let's just call it what it is. Everyone and their mama seems to have caught wind of the Faith Evans and Tupac hookup. Even Suge Knight, messy as ever, chimed in and said he definitely heard some suspicious noises. And let's be real here. How is it that all these different people, from Ray J to Desiree to Spice One, and now Suge, are all saying the same thing? Like, what would they possibly gain by lying about this? The math is not matting. And as if that wasn't enough, Tupac himself lit the internet on fire when he dropped his now iconic diss track, Hit 'Em Up, opening with that nuclear line about hooking up with Biggie's wife. Yikes. And don't forget, Biggie clapped back in one of his songs too, rapping that if Faith had twins, she'd probably have 2 packs. Baby, that line alone deserves its own investigation. So, with all these receipts flying left and right, how did Faith seriously expect anyone to believe that nothing happened between her and Tupac? Girl, be for real. Oh, and here's the kicker. Apparently, Kidada Jones herself confronted Faith to ask if she and Tupac ever hooked up. And surprise, surprise, Faith denied it again. Word on the street, Faith didn't feel like she owed Kidada any kind of explanation because, allegedly, Faith didn't think Kidada was as important to Tupac as she claimed to be. Ouch. Now, there are 2 very different stories about why Kidada wasn't with Tupac the night he was targeted. One says Tupac told her to stay behind at the hotel because he feared something might happen. The other? That he didn't want her tagging along because she wasn't that significant to him. Some even said they were engaged, but according to Pac's inner circle, their relationship was never that deep. If that's what Faith told Kid Ada during their convo, phew, the burn. Now look, I don't know why Faith keeps denying it. Maybe she's been lying for so long that telling the truth now would just be too awkward. Or maybe she's trying to dodge the traitor label. But what do y'all think? Sound off in the comments. Why do you think Faith still won't own up to what everybody already seems to know?